Warning: some contents may be disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised. I have a friend named Akane. We've known each other since high school, and even as adults, we still hang out occasionally, whether in person or online playing games. Akane has this elegant, refined look, like she walks straight out of a wealthy family's estate. She has a youthful face that makes it hard to pin down her actual age. There's something fragile about her, a quiet kind of beauty that draws attention even when she isn't trying. She's friendly to everyone, always wearing a gentle smile, though she insists that she's shy. I've never really seen any evidence of that, but maybe she just has her own definition of shyness. She's the type who keeps her circle small but deep, and if she lets you in, she's kind, loyal, and genuinely cares about you. "How are things with Haruto?" I asked her one day. Akane sighed. "We had fun at first. We went out a lot, played games together, spent all our time talking, but lately there's something off. I don't know what to do." "Off? How?" "He's become really clingy, moody. He gets upset if I don't reply fast enough, and he keeps saying things like, 'I can't live without you,' and then crying or throwing fits." Haruto was the first guy Akane dated after I became friends with her. Listening to her, I figured that she had just had the bad luck of falling for a guy with unstable emotions. Akane is effortlessly kind, which can be dangerous for men who aren't used to female attention. "You should put some distance between you two," I advised. "It's only gonna get worse." A few days later, she told me that she had cut ties with Haruto, but that didn't mean that she was done with relationships. Akane was popular. There was always another guy, another romance. And yet, every single time, something went wrong. Ren changed after we started dating. He dropped out of school and now he just stays home, anxious and restless all the time. "Oh, Sota? He was supposed to go overseas for work, but he vanished. He was already acting weird before the trip, like he was spiraling into something dark. Kenta used to be so fun to hang out with, but now he dropped out of his program, got depressed and just stopped functioning. He was so ambitious before. It's really hard to watch." "And Daiki? I don't know. At first he was cool and independent, but now he's always clinging to me, always sad when I'm not around. He used to ignore all my small requests, but now he does everything I ask even before I ask it. It's almost too much." I started to notice a pattern. Akane wasn't just dating these guys, she was ruining them. At first, I thought it was just bad luck. When you're as attractive and approachable as Akane, you attract all kinds of people, some of them bound to be unstable. But after so many similar stories, I started to wonder, was this really just coincidence? Or was there something about Akane herself that made them like this? A few years passed, and we both got into a new online game. Sometimes we played just the two of us, and other times we joined other players, and that's how we met Rico. Rico was close to us in age, lived in a nearby city, and had a relaxed, easygoing personality. We all got along well, and before I knew it, the three of us were playing together almost every night. One day, Rico came to me with a request. "I like Akane. Can you help me get closer to her?" I had suspected as much, so I agreed. I gave him advice. hyped him up, and sure enough, Akane and Rico started dating. Things seemed to be fine at first. The three of us still played games together and we still had fun. But then, 6 months later, Rico came to me again. He said, "If I stayed with Akane, I think I might lose myself." "What do you mean?" "She's amazing. She cares about me so much. She's always sweet, always understanding. But being with her makes me happy. But I can't think about anything else anymore. It's like she's taking over my mind." I laughed and then I said, "Wow, that's dramatic. You sound like a guy head over heels in love." No, it's not just that," he said, shaking his head. "It's like she's in control of me. I know I should feel weird about it, but instead, I feel good. Like I want her to control me, and that scares the hell out of me." I felt the cold shiver run down my spine. I asked him what Akane was like when they were alone together. "She's thoughtful. She spoils me a little. And yeah, she can be selfish at times, but she always makes me feel like I'm the most important person in the world. And no matter what I do, she never gets mad. If I screw up, she just smiles and says stuff like, 'Riku, that makes me sad, you know? I really wanted you to do it this way. But I know you're always so kind to me, so I'm sure you'll do better the next time, right?' It's weird. I've never been the type to care about pleasing others. But with Akane, I want to. I want to make her happy. It doesn't even feel like she's forcing me. It's like I'm doing it on my own, and that's what freaks me out the most." I told him about the others, about Haruto, Ren, Sota, Kenta, Daiki, about what happened to them after they fell for Akane. And Rico went pale. He went quiet for a long time before finally saying, "I need to leave her." "Are you sure?" "Yeah, if I stay, I'll do anything for her. Anything. And that is not okay. I'm scared of what I might become." And after that, Rico disappeared from our lives. He quit the game, stopped answering messages, and it was like he had erased all traces of himself. As her friend, I never felt the pull of Akane's influence the way these men did, but I've seen the results too many times to ignore them. Akane never asks for devotion. She never demands love, never manipulates in an obvious way. She doesn't have to. But somehow, just by being herself, she draws people in, reshapes them, makes them forget who they were before her, and she doesn't even realize she's doing it. I still talk to her, I still consider her a friend, but now, I keep a careful distance, because sooner or later, someone else is going to fall for Akane, and I don't want to watch it happen again. So, when I was around 20 and female, I was newly single and exploring the apps. I matched with this guy named Alex, and he wasn't my usual type, but his profile seemed cool. Showed he was in school, had a car and a job, plus friends, so he didn't seem weird to me at all. We got to talking, and he seemed pretty into me, so we set up a date. He came to pick me up for a driving date, so basically sitting in his car for hours driving around. Yes, I don't know why I did this, but I blame it on being young and dumb. So, he started driving, and we drove for about 40 minutes all the way to downtown. Mind you, during these 40 minutes, he was blasting music at full volume with the windows down. Everyone on the sidewalk was staring at us while he's screaming the lyrics out the window. When I brought up that I thought it was a little loud, he said, "Nah, everyone loves it." And they, in fact, did not love it, I can assure you. Anyways, we get to the heart of downtown, and he parks outside a very famous and prominent tower in the city, and he gets down on the ground and just stares at it. No warning, nothing. And this is where I started to think that he was a little strange. He then hopped up and said, "Let's go get some food now." And it was just very strange. So, now we begin driving to get food, and he drives 2 cities outside of the one that we're in. Essentially, we've been driving now for hours. And while on this drive, he starts spewing racist bullshit. And then he abruptly tells me that he is a very depressed and troubled person and asks me if I have ever done the slicey dicey to my wrist. With this, I was very taken aback and I didn't really know what to say. I mean, I've known this man for a few hours at this point, and I didn't think conversation would get this deep. He confided in me, and he told me that he had been hospitalized before for self-harm. And at this point, the vibe he was giving off was scary, and I started to feel in danger. But I was even more scared that if I offended him, something bad could happen. Let's not forget that I'm in his car, he has my home address, and I'm 2 cities out of mine. So I played nice. We finally got to a food spot and ate some dinner. At least he paid, right? Anyway, now's when it starts to get really creepy. We begin driving again back to our city, but he keeps taking the long way, so our 1 hour drive turns more into a 3 hour drive. At this point, we're back in the city, but it's really late at night, around 11:30 p.m. This is when he goes into a dark neighborhood and he starts driving very fast around tight roads and corners. As he's doing this, I ask him to slow down because he was scaring me, and he turns and then looks at me with no emotion and says, "You know, I've had some really hard days in my life." And then I said, "I know, you told me, and I'm so sorry." And then he said, "I used to hurt so bad that I would come and drive my car just like this and kill squirrels so something else could hurt as much as I did." I was in shock. I was honestly very terrified with what he said, and not to mention his strangeness from the start. All I could do was ask if he still did it, and he said no, not anymore. I knew that wasn't true, but I thought if I offend him, he can easily overpower me, so I tried to play it nice again. At this point, we were very close to my home, around 10 minutes. But then he abruptly asked if I've been to this park that's coming up. This park is at the bottom of a cliff, and it's the middle of the night. I have been to this park, but even if I hadn't, I would have said yes, because there was no way that I wanted that man to drive me down there. He then said, "Oh, perfect. I haven't, so you can show me around." And then he took a ride and drove down the very dark road to the bottom of the park. The parking lot was completely empty, with about 6 streetlights total. And needless to say, I thought that I would be victim number 1. Since I'm here, I obviously wasn't. But his tone and mannerisms were so strange while we were there. He then basically forced me to kiss him pretty intimately, and then got handsy while I kept pushing him off. It didn't escalate past that, which is good, and then he drove me home. I blocked his number and all socials after that, but I often wonder if I really did go on a date with a psychopath. When I was about 23, my friend Emily was using Tinder and matched with a guy. She then sent him a photo of me, and he told her that his friend was interested. And before I knew it, we were planning a double date. Their idea for a first hangout? A hike. The guys picked us up and drove us to a desert-like trail where you could see the city and neighborhoods from far off. I already felt a little uneasy, but I hadn't promised anything. I was just along for the ride. We started climbing higher up the trail, and at some point, Emily and her date walked ahead, turned a corner, and disappeared down the hill. That left me alone with him. The second that they were out of sight, I felt his arm wrap around me. Something then pressed against my neck, and when I looked down, I realized that it was a pocket knife. I let out a nervous laugh, probably pure shock, and he actually grinned and said, he laughed, "You're my kind of girl." Then he slipped the knife back into his pocket and kept his arm around me like nothing happened. I tried to move forward quickly and get through the rest of the hike, and afterward, they brought us back to his family's house. Apparently, they were really wealthy. I left my sweatshirt there by accident, and later, he sent a picture of it to Emily saying that I'd get it back the next time that I came over. Well, there was no next time, and I never saw him again. So, let's not meet. So I, an 18-year-old female, hung out with this guy, 21 and male, who had set me up 3 times before. But I was really bored and lonely. My actual crush said that he felt like he was entering a depressive episode, so I didn't want to bother him, so I gave this other guy a shot. He picked me up and immediately threw me off. He looked strange, nothing really like his photo, but whatever. We didn't really have a plan, and I already felt super uncomfortable, but I decided to give it a try anyway. He drove to a gas station to do whatever he needed to do. Then I said that we should totally go to Dave and Buster's, and he said, might as well, and so we went. He blew $40 on tickets, but we ended up giving the card to some kids because in his words, "I don't want anything." And that part was fine, but after that, he started acting really weird. He kept joking about killing us while driving and swerving, and at one point, he was driving with his knees and had both of his hands above his head. I don't know if he thought it was impressive or what, but I just stared at my phone and I pretended not to notice because I was already so uncomfortable. He then parked at the local park that was completely locked and said, "Aw, man." And I told him that of course it's locked. It's a town park and it's late. So he just sat there, parked, and I could feel that he was trying to make a move. I stayed glued to my phone, knowing exactly what he wanted. And eventually, I just suggested that we head downtown, which is near my place. He said okay, but once again, started swerving, speeding, and driving with no hands. I was so unbelievably uncomfortable. I kept dropping hints that I wanted to go home, but he wasn't picking up on any of them. We got downtown, and he said that he needed a smoke break. So we parked in front of a smoke shop and went inside to buy a cart, while I sat in the car texting my friend about what a nightmare I was trapped in. When he came back, he started driving through random neighborhoods and kept pointing out secluded houses that he liked. He was talking about which ones he could see himself living in. It was just so odd and creepy. We finally got back to the main street and again, he randomly turned off and almost hit a pole. I asked him what he was doing, and he said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm impulsive," and then launched into this whole monologue about his dangerous lifestyle. He had not asked me a single thing about myself the entire time. He just kept talking about himself. At this point, I was over it, so I tried to steer the vibe back to my house. I thought that he got the hint when we were near my place. But then he randomly noticed a clock on the side of a Wegmans and then said, "Whoa, that's so cool. I want to go see that." I said, "Yeah, I live near it. Obviously, I've been there." And then he said, "Well, okay, smartass," and laughed. I didn't laugh because it just wasn't funny. He parked in the empty parking lot and took off his seatbelt. He moved his seat back and kept giving me that look that guys give you when they want to kiss you. I was just on my phone messing with my vape and scrolling to make it very clear that that wasn't happening. He then randomly said, Okay, tell me about yourself." And I said to ask questions. He just sat there in silence and said, "You clearly want to go home." I thought, finally, he got the message. I raised my hands and said, "Yeah, sure, whatever." But instead of taking me home, he started asking me questions again, so I was trapped yet again. I told him about my college plans, and then he started asking where my family is from and what my last name is. He then went on an entire rant how Nigerians are evil and how I must be toxic. The whole thing just felt weird. I think I've mentally blocked out some parts because it was that uncomfortable. Eventually, I said that I was getting tired, and he finally agreed to take me home. But instead of going the normal way, he took the longest route possible, then missed my turn on purpose. I pointed it out and he said, "Fuck, okay," and then turned around. We finally got to my house, and just as I was about to leave, he parked and pulled his seat back again. I just sat there trying not to show any fear because I really didn't want him to touch me. He kept looking at me, clearly wanting to kiss, but I didn't even want to look at him. And then, somehow, he started talking about Palestine and Israel, which I'm interested in because it's obviously a heartbreaking conflict. But then he started blaming Jews for everything, saying that they run all the banks and basically control the entire world. I asked him if he blamed all Jews because that's what it sounded like, and then he said no, but just kept going on with more conspiracies. He said his family had to escape to Egypt, and I said I was sorry. He kept looking at me like he wanted to kiss, but I just refused to look back. And then he said he wanted to show me this ancient scripture of Israelite laws and pointed to something that claimed the age of consent was 3.5 years old. Mind you, he idolizes Kanye and was wearing Yeezys talking about how Jews are all evil and should all die. I asked him if he has met a real Jewish person and spoke to them, and all he said was, "Yeah, I work at a car dealership. They are greedy and cheap," and then proceeded to burst out laughing. I was just frozen thinking, this can't be real. And that's when I said, "Okay, well, I really have to go." And I tried to play it casual so he wouldn't touch me. I said that we could hang out tomorrow, and he said, "Okay, 4 p.m., are you free?" I lied, and I said that I would check my work schedule. I pretended to check and said, "Yeah, that works." And then I told him to text me when he got home and dashed out of his car like my life depended on it. The second that I got inside, I texted my friend everything. I made sure that he wasn't following me and immediately blocked him on Tinder and Instagram. I don't know what kind of person thinks any of that is appropriate on a first date, but I hope that I never cross paths with him again. I was fresh out of a 3-year relationship and I was 19 and still discovering myself. He was manipulative, but I still lived with him. But this would later turn out to be a good thing. I matched with a guy on Tinder, we'll call him Jack. I thought he was okay looking as I didn't have a type, especially after my relationship. He lives a couple hours away by train and I invited him out for a university night out for pre-drinks and clubbing. He came to chill with me and my friend before going to my other friends. Bearing in mind, I was not in the right mental headspace and I was drinking straight gin. I lost a few drinking games and I ended up having a lot of mixed alcohol. We went to a pub, people could order drinks to the table, and they could do it on an app. Jack began buying drinks for me, like super strong stuff and shots, then saying his friends back home were also buying drinks. I wanted to let loose, so I drank whatever was given to me, and I had left my drink unattended multiple times during the night. So at 10 p.m., we decided to move on. We went to a club and this is where stuff took a bad turn. I had barely been in there for 10 minutes, but I was overheating, stumbling and blacking out. I just thought the alcohol and went outside alone. Only for my friend to find me in front of the club, head between my knees on some stairs. We were lucky enough to have a safe bus stationed with paramedics who can help you if you need it. So I went over to them. I proceeded to throw up over 10 times, and I literally felt like I was dying. The paramedics said that I looked white like a ghost and that I looked distant, and I said that it was probably the alcohol. But months down the line after this, I thought that it was a possibility that I was drugged after being brought some more awareness. So, going back, I spent quite some time on this bus until finally Jack comes onto the bus out of nowhere, trying to usher me to just go home while still being sick. But eventually, I put on a brave face and we left. The paramedics did their best to help me on my way. And this is where it gets weird. I had previously agreed that the guy could stay at my flat, but I made him aware earlier that my ex would be in the room across the hall. He acted strange when he found out, fidgeting and wondering if he would be home when we are. So, on our way back, I'm leaning on my friend for support, and this is where Jack said, "You know, my friends think I'm a psychopath and I give serial killer vibes, but don't worry, I'm not." Which weirded both of us girls out, completely made us uncomfortable. So we get back to my place, and my friend doesn't want to leave me, but her partner is there to pick her up. I said that I would be fine, and I was feeling slightly better, and so she leaves. I'm now alone with this guy, hoping that my ex is next door. My ex who treated me like shit, but I knew that if I screamed for help, he would come, so I let Jack settle first. He automatically went for my bed, and he's trying to convince me to sleep next to him. I said no because the motion of the bed moving would make me throw up again, and I decided that I would sleep on the floor. So I settle on the floor. He's on the bed, and at some point I pass out. During the night, I wake up at some point. My head was spinning, but I could feel somebody watching me. And instead of ignoring it like I could, I opened my eyes and I rolled over only for Jack to be on the floor, not on the bed where he originally was, and for him to be facing me with his eyes closed. It wasn't until I sat up and drank some water did he roll over, pretending to sleep. For the rest of that night, I was sleepless. I felt so sick and so afraid, like he could do anything to me. My head swam, but here and there, I would doze off with the alcohol effects. So at 6 a.m., I officially had enough. I got up and I went to the bathroom, and I came back not long after, and he was stood up in my room and looked so suspicious, but I kinda just let it go. He asked how I was feeling and if I needed anything. I said no, but that I'm going to call my dad because he has me on a tracking app and knew that I was out last night, so he might come bring some stuff for me. We then heard noise from my ex's room, and that's when Jack started to act really weird, like he had forgotten about him. He asked if I would see him again, and I said maybe. So after he left at 7 a.m. for a train, I locked my doors again. I waited till after he said he was on the train home, and then I blocked him on everything. Well, this is where it turned stalkerish. He obviously struggled to get through to me, so he found my friend's Snapchat, added her, and began obsessively texting her about me and wanting to see me and asking why I blocked him. This went on for days until she put her foot down for me and said that I want nothing to do with him. So from this experience, I was scared to go on nights out for a while. I still to this day think that I was drugged, and if I hadn't been sick as many times as I did to get it out of my system, I think he would have done something. I had moved out of that place with my ex 2 weeks after this, but I was so paranoid that he would come knocking, and my naivety definitely showed in this situation. But it's definitely taught me something, and I have matured since then. Although, a serious interest in true crime picked up after this. The what if circled in my head, but I am okay. I still made stupid decisions after this. I've been in bad relationships, and I've been a little too spontaneous with guys that I've went on dates with. But I have learned what not to do. And here's the riddle for this video. Hey everyone, this is your creepy sister. Thank you so much for watching the video. I do hope you enjoyed it. Also, don't forget to leave a like and a comment. It really helps the channel out. A big shout out to both my channel members and Patreon members. Thank you so much for taking your support to the next level. You guys are great. And again, to everyone, stay scared because your fear feeds me.